As we continue looking at battles, and today's one of my favorites. I get excited about this one. This is a fantastic battle. Because today we're going to start a little tiny study within all these battles about the importance of faith. We just sang faith is the victory, and faith, how important that is. And we're going to see exactly how important is faith as we go into battle. Because a lot of people out there will say, well, as long as you got faith, you're going to be okay. Is that true? No. Because it matters what you put your faith in. That's the important part, isn't it? What are you putting your faith in? How many have ever walked out saying, I got full faith my car is going to start? You got in, loaded everything up, ready to go to work, and you turn that over, and what happens, Raj? It doesn't start. It happens, right? You had faith, but you put it in a American-made car. And it didn't work. That's a problem, isn't it? How many of you ever put your faith in a person? Oh, you just knew they were a great leader, they were a wonderful person, they had your best interest in mind, and you find out what? No. Let you down. How many have ever put your faith in yourself? Oh, I got this. I've got it all in control. I can handle this, I can do this, and who let you down? You did. We put our faith in a lot of things. In fact, everybody here today put your faith in something, that pew. How many sat down thinking even a moment about it? You just sat down. Did you think for a moment it wasn't going to hold you? No, and it didn't let you down. Someday. Someday. You haven't looked under there, have you? Some of these are in pretty shoddy shape. You never know. Because we put our faith in things. We put our faith in other drivers. We put our faith in the world around us. We put our faith in things. And that it doesn't matter how much faith you have, if it's in something that's not faithful, can it be a problem? So you sit there and say, very piously, I put my faith in God. But you got to be careful. You don't want to be like the man that sat there amongst all of his friends. They were sitting around at a nice lunch and said, I have more faith in God than any of you. They're like, oh yeah? He says, yes. In fact, all of you know that I am very allergic to strawberries. Oh yeah, we know that. I just get hives all over the place. I get very sick. I have trouble breathing. You know that. I have so much faith in God that I'm going to eat this strawberry and I know I'm going to be fine. And what happened to that poor guy? He got very sick. They had to take him over to the emergency room, take care of him. He got out of the emergency room, and he was walking with his friend. They were going along the road there, and he said, I have far more faith in you. In fact, I have so much faith in God, I can walk across this street without looking, and I will not be hit by a car. When he got out of the hospital, he was walking with his friend on a nice little hike, and going along this ledge. And he said, I have so much faith in God, so much more than you. I know that if I jump off this ledge, I will not die. So he's standing before God, having died. And he says, God, why weren't you there for me? I had faith in you. And God looks at him and says, oh, really? You had faith in me? Did I tell you to do any of those things? Did I tell you to eat that strawberry? Did I tell you to walk in traffic? Did I tell you to jump off a cliff? I didn't tell you to do that. I never promised you those things. I keep my promises. What were you thinking? And what I want to bring up, because a lot of people out there that say, if I have enough faith in God, I can do anything. Be very careful. Because what are you putting your faith in God to do? Whatever you want Him to do? Whatever you think is right? Or are you putting your faith in God's promises? Are you putting your faith in His character? Are you putting your faith in His power? Are you putting faith in His answers, not yours? Because you can sit there all day long, I have faith that God will fix this problem for me, and let me tell you how He's going to fix it. But if it's not His way, your faith is actually in who? Yourself. So, have faith in God. As we go through these battles of life, you do need to have faith in God that He will provide the way at the right time. Why do I say that? Well, let's go to the story. Let's all go to 1 Samuel chapter 13. We're actually going to look at two gentlemen today, and they're related. First one is King Saul. The second is his son Jonathan. One man of a weak faith, and one man of great faith. And we're going to see how it turns out for these two gentlemen today. So the very first one we're going to look at, in 1 Samuel chapter 13, we're going to start in verse 1. 1 Samuel 13:1. This is about King Saul. Saul reigned 1 year. Now you all know the story of Saul. Why did he have the job of king? First chosen king of Israel. Because he was tall. He was tall. God said don't get a king. God said it's a bad idea to get a king. I don't want to give you a king, but if you really want a king, I'll give you a king. And they said, give us a king. It's going to end bad. It's going to be bad. You really want a king? Yes, give us a king. So God said, okay, I'll give you a king. That tall guy over there. The one hiding behind the boxes. The one down there hiding from everybody. You got him. So King Saul reigned for 1 year, and then, of course, the second year. And when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, Saul chose him 3,000 men of Israel, wherewith 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash, and in Mount Bethel, and 1,000 with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. And the rest of the people he sent every man to his tent. So he had 3,000 chosen men, 2,000 with him, 1,000 with his son Jonathan. And what did son Jonathan decide to do with his 1,000? Whatever God wanted him to do. And what did God want him to do? Drive out the Philistines. Philistines were the land. Philistines ruled the area. And he was going to get them loose. So what did he do with his 1,000 men? Verse 3. And Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines that was in Geba. And the Philistines heard of it. And Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, let the Hebrews hear. And all Israel heard say that Saul had smitten the garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also was had in abomination with the Philistines, and the people were called together after Saul to Gilgal. So, we have here a great victory. Jonathan was able to go against a garrison. Now, how many people in a garrison? Everybody say it with me. I don't know. All a garrison means is they had an encampment. They were fortified. They were ready for attack, and they were there, and they had supplies and everything. And he said, I'm going to take my 1,000, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to strike them, and they won. They routed them. Therefore Saul said what? Everybody rejoice. Everybody praise, because victory is ours. And everybody was happy. How many say it's great and easy to have great faith when things are going right? Isn't that nice? Hey, you got victory after victory after victory, and things are going good. God's on my side. Everything's wonderful. But you have to remember there's still an enemy in there. And is the enemy just going to sit there and relax and say, oh, well, nothing we can do? No. Because what was the response of the Philistines in verse 5? 1 Samuel 13:5. And the Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel. So he took 1,000 and defeated a little garrison. Philistines said, okay, you want war? We'll bring war to you. And they gathered people together to fight Israel. 30,000 chariots. Now, I know it's been a while since you've been in math class, but is 30,000 more than 1,000? Is 30,000 more than 3,000? Now Saul had said, everybody come. So they were coming out of the woodwork, but did they have 30,000 chariots? That's just the chariots. That's just horses and riders on chariots. They had 30,000 of those. What else did they have? And 6,000 horsemen beside the chariots, and people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash, eastward from Bethaven. So they said, you want a war? You want to strike a little garrison? We're bringing the army. And they brought their army to fight against Israel. Now how's your faith doing? They got very excited there. We had a great victory. Well, God is with us. But then it's like, oh, they're going to fight back. Ever feel outnumbered? Ever feel like everybody's against you? Ever feel like the situation's against you? Nothing's going right? What's your response then? What should be your response then? Let's get it out in the open. What should your response be? God is on our side, right? God has given us victory. If God desires us to have victory, He will give us victory. Let us stand up. Let us go out there with our 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000, however many we got. Let's go and let's win. Instead, what was their response? Well, let's see, verse 6. When the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait. Ever feel like you're in a strait? A dire strait? Things aren't looking good. For the people were distressed. Then the people did hide themselves in caves, and in thickets, and in rocks, and in high places, and in pits. They ran and hid. 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, military strewn across as far as the eye can see. We can't defeat that. We're hiding. And some of them, verse 7, and some of the Hebrews went over Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was in Gilgal, and all the people followed him, trembling. In fact, we find out later exactly how many people he had left. 600. 600? Versus how many? As many as the sand of the sea. I wouldn't even take those 600 against the 6,000 horsemen, more or less 30,000 chariots and people as the sand of the sea. I mean, it's astronomical. Raise your hand honestly. How many of you would be scared? How many would be distressed? How many would think, maybe that little trip across the Jordan to the other side looks good right now? In fact, we find out later, some of them even joined the Philistines. They're like, hey, you need a little help over here? I'll carry your bags. I'll help you out. I'll do anything you need. Let me just work for you so I don't get run over by you. Right? Where's their faith? See, faith was in themselves. The faith was in their numbers. Their faith was in their abilities. And they looked at it and said, we cannot win. And frankly, on their own abilities and all the things that they had, they could not win. It was impossible for them to win. But with God, what's possible? All things are possible. So we have here King Saul, of little faith, turns to God. That's a good thing. And he sends a message to Samuel, who is the prophet, who is the priest at the time, and says, I need you to come, and we need to do an offering to God. We need to give an offering to God so that He's on our side, so that when we go to battle, when they come at us, we won't be destroyed. You need to come help us. And Samuel says, I'll be there in 7 days. Has God ever told you to wait? How many like to wait? No. When do you want God there when you're in a dire strait? I want Him here now. And by the way, was God with them? Yeah. See, it doesn't take a sacrifice. That's the thing in Saul's mind. He thought if I do a prayer or I do something, and then God's on my side. When was God on their side? The entire time. But they didn't have that kind of faith, did he? He thought, I need to do the sacrifice, and then He'll be on our side. But no, he didn't understand. His faith was in religion, basically. You ever feel like that? Well, if I go to church on Sunday, then all my problems will be solved. No. First of all, not necessarily. Second of all, what? Don't wait till Sunday. Go to Him when? You can go to Him anytime, right? He's always there. So he waits, verse 8. And he tarried 7 days according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. More and more just kept leaving, and they waiting for that sacrifice, waiting for Samuel to come. And Saul said, bring me hither a burnt offering to me and peace offerings. And he offered the burnt offerings. Is that the king's job to give offerings to God? No. Not his job. What did he do? He grew impatient. And when our faith is weak, sometimes we can be impatient too. You're not doing it fast enough, God. You're not doing it in the right time. I will fix this now. And what do we usually end up doing? Messing it up. Causing more problems. And that's exactly what he did, verse 10. And it came to pass that as soon, isn't this always the way, that as soon as he made an end of the offering, the burnt offerings, behold, Samuel came. And that's the way it always is. You wait, and as soon as you do it, then it comes. It's kind of like when you're sitting in a restaurant, you're waiting for the check, and finally you say, this is enough. I'm getting up and I'm going to go get it. And what happens? Check comes. And you say to yourself, what? I should have gotten up earlier. No. I don't know why that works, but it's always, and as soon as he got done, here comes Samuel. Behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. And Samuel said, what have you done? Why didn't you wait? Where's your faith? I said I was coming. I said God is with you. And Saul said, because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and thou came not within the days appointed. By the way, did he? Yes, he did. He came the seventh day. It said, in 7 days I will be there. And on the seventh day he came. He was faithful. Is God faithful? Sometimes he comes at the last second just to test us a little bit. He is faithful. And that thou camest not within the days appointed, that the Philistines gathered themselves together at Michmash. They just kept more and more coming. Therefore said I, the Philistines will come down now upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made the supplication of the Lord. I forced myself, therefore, and offered the burnt offerings. Does that sound like a good excuse? I didn't want to. I didn't want to figure it out myself. I didn't want to fix it myself, but I forced myself to fix it myself. Aren't you proud of me, Samuel? Is God proud of him? No. In fact, through Samuel, God relates to him that the kingdom is no longer his. He will give it to a man after God's own heart. He's going to give this kingdom to David. It's not going to Jonathan, his son, Saul's son. It will be cut off from Saul in the future, and it's going to go to another person because he has done this thing. What did Saul lose by his little faith? Blessings. Now, I'm going to let you in a little secret. We're going to do a little further. He's going to win this battle. God had a plan the whole time to win the battle. See, that's the thing we got to get in our head. When we're in the battles, God will give us the victory. So what does our little faith cost us? Sometimes it doesn't cost us the battle, but what does it cost us? What has Saul lost while he's been doing it his way? He lost peace. He lost joy. He lost faith. And eventually he lost blessings. God came to him and said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And Saul said, what? I'll do this the hard way. Can we be that way sometimes too? Don't be impatient. Trust God. Put your faith in Him and let Him do His work. Or we can lose some blessings of God that He wants so much for us. How much different would this have turned out if Saul just would have said, yeah, if you want to leave, folks, leave. I'm trusting God. I'm staying here. Even if it's just me alone, standing here by myself, me and Jonathan, that's okay. We're going to wait here. Samuel's going to come. God is with us, and we're going to win this battle. Oh, what a difference that would have been. But his faith was weak. As opposed to his son. Let's take a look at Jonathan now. Let's start in chapter 13, verse 15. Let's get a little lay of the land here, first of all. First of all, as we said in the paper, what was the situation? And we've read already what the situation is. How many people are out there? How big is the enemy? It's huge. Against his little group of 600, he has a just sand of the sea group out there with chariots and horses and spears and all the rest of that stuff. They've got a problem, don't they? The enemy is big. The problem, and I say this to say, listen, folks, the battles are big. I'm not here to belittle them. Sometimes the struggles are hard. I understand that. I go through them. You go through them. Some of you have gone through much bigger struggles and much bigger battles than I've ever been through. This isn't to belittle them, but we need to remember how big who is. God is. Put your faith in Him. Because we're going to learn that from Jonathan. Even though the enemy was huge and the people were scared. They were trembling. Even the 600 were with them were doing what the whole time? Scared to death. They were there, though. They were there. They had the ark and everything, but they were scared to death. So, one more thing you need to know. Look at verse 19 of chapter 13. What were their resources? 600 guys, right? What kind of weapons do they have? Look at chapter 13, verse 19. Now there was no smith found throughout all the land of Israel. Mrs. Smith, no smiths. Not a single smith in the entire country. Nobody to make horseshoes, nobody to make weapons, nobody to make plows, nobody. No smiths were allowed in Israel. Why? Because the Philistines were in control. Verse 19 again. For the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make them swords or spears. But all the Israelites went down to the Philistines to sharpen every man his share, and his coulter, and his axe, and his mattock. Yet they had a file for the mattocks, and for the coulters, and for the forks, and for the axes, and to sharpen the goads. In other words, they were like a farmers going to battle. All those 600 there, all the other Israelites were hiding, what were they had? They had an axe. They had pitchforks that they sharpened themselves with a file. Not ground them down to a fine point. That's what they had for weapons. In fact, look at verse 22. So it came to pass in the day of battle that there were neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people that were with Saul and Jonathan, but with Saul and with Jonathan, his son, was there found. So how many swords did they have? 2. 2 swords. And maybe 2 spears. Saul always seemed to have a spear handy. A javelin to throw at people. So we're saying, at most, 2 spears, 2 javelins. 2 spears, 2 swords. That's it. Is that a lot? Again, what's the other side? 30,000? 6,000? Sand of the sea? I bet every one of them had a sword and a spear. This is the odds they're against. So what does Jonathan do? What would you do if you're Jonathan? I ask you. Let's participate a little. What would you do if you're Jonathan? Dad's over there shaking in his boots. The 600 people with him are scared to death. His dad's just lost the kingdom. Jonathan now knows it's not going to who? Him. If you're Jonathan, how disappointed are you in everything right now? How disappointed are you in your life right now? How disappointed in your father are you? In Israel are you? And frankly, how disappointed in God are you right now if you're Jonathan? How many are glad Jonathan's nothing like us? Because I'd be heartbroken. I'd be one of those guys who say, okay, where's that pit? I'm going to go hang out in there for a while until this whole thing blows over. So we got 2 swords, 2 spears, and 600 people. That's not enough. But Jonathan does not think that way. And when we look at our battles, when we look at our obstacles, when we look at what we're against, don't think that way. Don't look at how big the struggle is. Don't look how big the enemy is. Don't look at how little you have. Because none of that matters when who's on your side. God on his side. And that's what Jonathan said. Jonathan says this. Chapter 14. He's sitting around. He's got his armor bearer there. That's an easy job. He's not bearing a whole lot, is he? But, chapter 14, verse 1. Now it came to pass upon a day that Jonathan the son of Saul said unto the young man that bare his armor, Come, let us go over to the Philistines' garrison that is on the other side. But he told not his father. So his solution was, hey, tell you what, let's not tell Dad. Let's not tell the other 600 over there. You and me, let's go attack. Now, if you're the armor bearer, what are you thinking? Crazy. Okay. He says, yeah, let's just crawl over there and let's go see what's going on over there. Let's go to the garrison. Again, they're not going to the little guy looking out there, the lookout. They're going to the garrison, which is where the encampment is, where they're all settled in. That's where they're going. Verse 2. And Saul tarried in the uttermost part of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree, which is in Migron, and the people that were with him were about 600 men. So Saul's under a pomegranate tree. His son is going to battle. Verse 3. And Ahiah, the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, and son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the Lord's priest in Shiloh, wearing an ephod, and the people knew not that Jonathan was gone. So again, the ark was there, the priest was there, all that was there, but they were not trusting God, were they? Still shaking in their boots. Probably literally. At the prospect, but where's Jonathan? He's off to fight, verse 4. And between the passages by which Jonathan sought to go over unto the Philistines' garrison, there was a sharp rock on the one side, and a sharp rock on the other. And the name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other was Seneh. The forefront of the one was situate northward, over against Michmash, and the other southward toward Gibeah. So he's kind of crawling up. They're crawling up between these 2 rocks, and they're going to go over to the garrison. Now the whole time going up, if you're the armor bearer, let's put yourself in that position. You're thinking what? I hope he has what? A plan. I hope he knows what he's doing. We're getting closer and closer to that well-stocked enemy over there. What are we going to do? What does it say? Verse 6. And Jonathan said to the young man that bare his armor, Come, let us go over unto the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us. For there is no restraint to the Lord to save by many or by a few? What was the plan? Let's go attack and see what happens. What? Again, if I'm the armor, you got a better plan than that, right? Attack and see what happens? Had God told Jonathan that if he attacked, he'd win? The answer is no. But what does he say? It's kind of like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when they were at the fiery furnace, right? We're not going to worship other gods, but if you throw us in, God may save us, He may not. But anyways, we're not going to serve. And this is Jonathan's idea. I'm on God's side. God can save us. God said He would save us. So let's go. Let's do it. And if God wants us to save all of Israel, let's do it. Because even if we come with 6 million people or we come with 1, is that enough for God? Yeah. So they went up. Verse 7. And his armor bearer said unto him, do all that is in thine heart. Turn thee. Behold, I am with thee according to thy heart. Whatever you want to do, Jonathan, I'm there with you. That's a good guy. That's the guy of faith I want to be. Right? Let's just do this. Then Jonathan said, behold, we will pass over unto these men, and we will discover ourselves unto them. Here's their battle plan. Here's what we do. We're going to find the garrison. We're going to find the people. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to come out of the rocks and say, here we are. That's a battle plan, isn't it? Isn't that nice? And then the armor bearer's like, okay, then what? He said, okay, here's the plan. We'll say we're here, and if they say, hey, you Israelites, come over here, that'll be the sign to go over there and kill everybody. Okay? What if they say, stay there? Stay where you're at, we're coming to you. Okay, well, we'll stay here and wait for them to come over here. Is that a great battle plan or not? I love that plan. I love this plan. Let's do it, right? So they do. They go up and they say, here we are. And they say, oh, look, hey, you Israelites, come over here. So he said, let's go. And they just started running across, and they just started hitting and tacking. 20 people within 1 furlong they took out. And you know what happened then? God intervened. Because God then put in the head of the Philistines, the Israelites are attacking. They're coming out of the ground like gophers. Or whatever you guys have out here. Gophers coming out of the ground. They're coming out of the ground from everywhere. And they start attacking each other. How many swords did they have in all of Israel? 2. How many spears do they have? Maybe 2. How many swords did God have? He had all of the Philistine swords. And He turned all the Philistine swords against the Philistines. And they started attacking each other. They didn't know who was who. And they were all going crazy. And they started defeating each other. And Saul saw what was going on and said, hey, look what's going on over there. They're killing each other. Let's attack. In fact, he said to the priest, get the Ark of the Covenant. Let's go. But he says, not enough time for that. Let's go. And then the people started coming out of the woodwork. They started coming out of the caves. They started coming out of the pits, out of the thickets. Even the ones who were working with the Philistines, they started picking up swords and killing the Philistines. And they routed them that day. How many did they have? 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and people like the sand of the sea. And who won that day? And how did it start? Jonathan and an armor bearer, with 1 sword and 1 spear, went and did what God wanted them to do. Do you have that kind of faith? Saul looked at the problem and feared. And trembled and said, what kind of religious thing can I do to get out of this? Wrong answer. Jonathan said what? I don't care how big they are, and I don't care how little I have. We're going to trust God. And whatever He wants to be, will be. And if He gives us victory, I will trust Him. And he went and he just did what he had to do. That's faith. No guarantees. No promises. In fact, one of the dumb things King Saul did do is while they were having the battle, as the Israelites finally came and engaged in the battle and started chasing all those Philistines away, he said, if anybody eats anything this day before we win this battle completely, I will kill them. Because that makes God happy, right? Those kind of rash promises always make God happy, right? Again, he thinks very religiously. And by the way, anybody know who's the only person that ate something that day? Jonathan, because he wasn't there when they made the announcement. And Saul was going to kill him until all the people said, no, you idiot. No, you can't kill your son over this. He didn't know. Don't bargain. Don't make promises. Just what? Trust God. It doesn't matter how big the problem is. It doesn't matter how weak you are. God can give the victory if you just trust Him. Talk to Him, right? So at the bottom of your paper, it says, so, how can faith make a difference? I want to note, it's the same battle. Did King Saul and Jonathan both win that battle? Yes. They were both victorious. So what difference did faith make? Jonathan the whole time had faith. He had strength. He had joy. He had peace throughout all of it, knowing that God was going to take care of it. And he came out of it victorious. What about Saul? Feared the whole time. Lost control of his people. Lost hope. And ended up losing the kingdom. He lost blessings, even though he won the battle. So what are you going to do, people? Are you going to be a person of faith who says, I don't care how big it is. I don't care how little I have. I'm going to trust God. I'm going to let Him get me through it. I'm going to be patient. And whatever He tells me to do, I'm going to do. And I'm just going to let Him take care of it. Can we have that kind of peace? Can we have that kind of faith? Let me ask you something. What if you don't? Because let's be honest. If I had to raise my hand, I'd say, I do not have the faith of Jonathan. I do not have the faith of David against Goliath. I do not have that kind of faith all the time. I get scared. I try to take care of things my own. I have problems with that. So what do we do then? We'll learn that next week. Because next week we're going to see what happens when you don't have a lot of faith. Now you can be like King Saul and just keep making mistake after mistake after mistake. Or you can be like the guy we're going to learn next week who says, Lord, help my unbelief. Help me have faith. Give me some signs. Give me some indication. Let me know you're there. And will God do that? Will He help our unbelief? If we're willing. Saul's number one problem was he had too much pride and was never willing to admit he made a mistake. Never willing to take account. Never willing to go to God for help. We can be like that, can't we? That's the sign of true weak faith. That we have our faith really in ourselves. Be like Jonathan. Be like the guy we're going to see next week who says, Lord, if I'm weak, help me. And God will always help us through these battles, won't He? So, is faith important? Yeah. And where is it most important? Salvation. Because I just want to make a point here. We saw 600 people facing a gigantic army. If they were going to do it on their own, what chance did they have? Zero chance. 2 swords, 2 spears against all that. Zero chance on their own. I want to remind everybody here today, we are all, every human being, faces an enemy called sin. We all face a penalty of death, eternal death, because of our sin. And how many people who have ever lived could face that penalty, can overcome that penalty on their own? Zero. It's impossible. Even more impossible than 600 versus that hundreds of thousands. We cannot address our sin. We cannot make up for our sin. We cannot overcome that penalty of sin on our own. So who do we have to put our faith in for salvation? Jesus Christ. He made a way, didn't He? Through who? Through Jesus Christ. He Himself came. He Himself lowered Himself to be one of us. Came down here for the sole purpose of dying on that cross for our sins, to rise the third day, to show that He is our Savior. And we have to, by faith, because we cannot do it on our own. Can't do it through religion, which is what King Saul tried. You can't do it through doing good or doing well or going places or giving money. None of that works. A lot of people have a lot of faith in other religions, don't they? There's even people who put faith in the Christian religion who are missing the mark. Because we can't do it, can we? It's impossible. That enemy is too big. That obstacle is too big. We cannot defeat it on our own. We need the blood of Jesus Christ. But if we put our simple faith and say, yes, I believe that Jesus died for my sins, and I ask Him to forgive me of my sins, then will we have the victory? Who says so? He says. And is He faithful? Can we trust that more than we can a car? Or a chair? Or a person? God said so, so it will happen. Put your faith in Him. That's the critical faith. And then, each day after that, God will help us overcome all those obstacles, those other things we go through. He will be there for us. And again, we can have that peace and all those blessings by faith, can't we?